Okay, look, I need to get ready. I'm not doing anything crazy. I am going to the next town over to do a little bit of window shopping. If that turns into something else, you know, who am I to judge? Just gonna throw on some simple earrings. I've got on my, my parents got me the Dylan Purple Versace perfume for part of my Christmas. And I've got it on and it smells so good. So good. Oh, I tell you what. Okay. Like I said, I'm not really worried about it. I'm just going to peruse a little bit. And I guess I'll just put a little bit of makeup on. There'll be another video up before this one, but I permed my hair, and this is the final result. It hasn't been washed yet, like with shampoo. I've just been kind of like refreshing it. Just like I wet it the other day and then applied some product, and then I haven't applied any more product since then. I've just been letting it kind of do its own thing while it finishes, it finished like curing, and then I am going to wash it tonight, and we will see kind of how it looks after that. But I'm pretty happy with it. That video should be going up before this. It's kind of a compilation of things that I've done, so it'll be like true vlog style. This one should be too, just because we'll just be chilling and then shopping and chilling, you know. I don't really need anything. I just want to kind of go see, get out of the house, you know. That was just my Merit stick and brows, or just the e.l.f. Wow Brow Tinted Gel. This is a neutral brown. Put just a little bit of concealer on. This is the Estee Lauder Double Wear in 1N. Yeah, 1N. I feel like my skin's been looking pretty good lately, so I don't really want to, I'm not super concerned about it. Not really trying to cover anything up, just trying to feel a little more put together, I guess. I don't know. Also, my lighting might be kind of weird because I don't have my other lights on the side. It just felt like a lot of work if we're just sitting here chit and chatting, you know. Powder, just a little bit from the One Size. This is the Ultimate Setting Powder in Ultra Pink. Just a little bit under the eyes and the T-zone. Color good. Literally just the most bare minimum makeup. Just enough that when I step out of my vehicle and go into a store, nobody screams in horror. You know? I'll be back in just a minute. Okay, a little bit of blush. This is the Huda Glowish and Cheeky Vegan, or no, excuse me, the Huda Glowish Cheeky Vegan Blush Powder in Berry Juicy. Bronzer, just a little bit. I'm gonna go with the Makeup by Mario. And just a little bit of mascara from, you guessed it, Bad Gal Bang Benefit. Okay, outfit, I'm not gonna win any awards. I've got these cute little joggers on from Target, and I've got this little shirt on that says "In my feral era," and it's a little raccoon praising to the moon. Okay, sweater, I either am gonna wear this guy, which is hooded, or I've got this little guy, which is not hooded and cropped. Let's try them on. I think the cropped one is going to be it, because the other one feels like, I don't know how to explain it. I don't really like to wear things that are like baggy on top and bottom. Like the other sweater I would wear with like leggings usually. Okay, yeah, I think this is the one. And because I'm wearing this cropped jacket, I'm just gonna tuck in my shirt. Because nobody's gonna be seeing it anyways. Put my specs back on. Boop. Let's fucking hit the road. So I have been meaning to do this project for a hot minute, but I basically bought some tea towels from Amazon and some embroidery thread and like hoops and all of that. And this is like a sticky paper. You peel it off the back here, and then this is like water soluble, so you can stick it down and then embroider over the top of it with your like template, and then you can just wash it and this will disappear, but your thread will remain. So I went ahead and got those, and these are actually from my coworkers. This is like a very, very, very belated Christmas / early Valentine's now at this point. But basically I've got like these little tea towels, and then I've got little miniature jams, and I've got beeswax wraps that are reusable, and then I'm going to kind of put those all together in like a little kit with a small loaf of bread. So it's kind of like a homemade gift for them this year. I just haven't quite gotten there yet. But yeah, so I went ahead this morning and I have printed off all the last names of my coworkers, and now I just kind of want to get started on actually stitching them and putting them together. So we're gonna do some of that together, and yeah, this is another like hobby I'm trying to teach myself this year. We'll see how it goes. This will also be going up after I've given it to my coworkers, so this won't spoil anything. I've got a couple videos before this. Okay, so it is actually the 30th of January, and I kind of wanted to just give a roundup of the books that I've read this month. I've actually read 11 books, which is so wild to me because I thought I hadn't read that many. So yeah, I just wanted to talk through what I've read and kind of my thoughts about them and kind of go from there. First up is actually, I just have to show you guys this bag that my dad and I use. We use this bag to like switch things back and forth, but it says buy me ramen and tell me I'm pretty. I think it's technically my mom's, but he stole it from her, so we are using it for that. I have a container that I need to return to my parents. That's not important. Okay. In order, I think we'll go. I've talked about a few of these. You'll see like a few just remarks about what I've been reading, but I didn't really go into depth on how I actually felt about them or what kind of rating I gave them. So my 2026 reading challenge, as a reminder, is 70 books this year. I'm gonna knock it out of the park. I already know. Like I said, I've already read 11 books and it's only January, so in order. Okay, I've got some books in the bag here, a couple that I bought for my dad and gonna give him, so we'll talk about those too, but I also have some like on my shelf specifically that I've read. So the first up is Betrayed. This was from the House of Night series. This is book number 2 in the series. I believe there's 12. I'll put it on the screen here. I think there's 12 in the series though. I see them all over there, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, so there's 12 books in the series. So this was book number 2. And I actually grabbed the wrong book. This is book number 1. This is marked, but I read that last year. Let me grab the other one. Okay, so the third one is actually Chosen. So this is the other one that I've read this year. And again, these are from the House of Night series. I read these as a young adult, and so this is kind of just a fun reread for me. I wouldn't say that this is like life-changing like reading, you know. But my parents bought me the whole set for my birthday one year because I asked for it, and so this has just been a fun like reread for me. For these two books, I gave them both I think I gave them both 4 stars. Let me look. If you hear my cat in the background, she's going wild. Yeah, so both of these books I gave 4 stars, and before anybody gives me any shit about that, reading is subjective. You can rate books whatever you want to. I am not going to get too serious about it because at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter that much. It's what I enjoyed, if I enjoyed it or I didn't. And so these books I gave 4 stars just because I like the story. I like the kind of twists and turns that are happening, and they're just quick, fun reads for me. These aren't very long, so they don't take me very long to read at all. 300 pages, so this is just a fun, quick read. Okay, after that, I read The Diary of Anne Frank, and let's see, it's actually called The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank. And as I mentioned in one of my previous videos, this is not a typical read for me. I don't enjoy like historical reads. I don't enjoy nonfiction reads. And I actually didn't rate this book very high. And I'll tell you why. It's not because of the time itself. Like, I have nothing against that. I'm not getting into what actually she went through. I know nothing about that. I could never even imagine being in that situation or any of that. What I'm rating specifically is this is her diary, and when I tell you that she was a brat throughout this thing, like, I don't know how to explain it other than it was very self-centered, but it was also like a 12 to 15-year-old writing this, right? And she was going through horrific times. So I can't even imagine, but the story itself, the writing itself, the book itself, the diary itself, and the topics within the diary, to me, weren't that pivotal, I guess, which is really controversial because it sounds like I'm like knocking on her for being a Holocaust victim, which I am absolutely not. I just think that this maybe didn't need to be published in this format. It was a little weird. It was a little graphic in some points for being like a 12 to 14-year-old. It just gave me a weird vibe knowing that her father published this after she passed, which is like respectable for him. Like, you can do whatever you want to, but it just wasn't it for me. So that's that. So I gave this like 2.5 stars. Okay, so the next book that I read was actually another one of my father's books. And this was John Grisham's The Widow. And I actually enjoyed this book. I want to say this is my first John Grisham read. I think it is. I'm pretty sure. I've got a couple more that I need to read from him that are also my father's books, but yeah, I enjoyed this. I enjoyed like kind of where it was going and the story and all the build up to it. I only gave this book 3.5 stars because it was like really good, and like really in depth. And then the ending for me was just like pretty lackluster. It felt rushed to me for the ending instead of kind of thoroughly drawing it out after like all this lead up and everything that the character went through. Yeah, but the writing was good. I enjoyed the story. I just thought the ending was kind of like meh after everything that we went through in the rest of the book, if that makes sense. So 3.5 stars on this one. Okay. Next up is a Katie Robert book, actually, and I read Cruel Seduction, and this is part of the Dark Olympus series, I want to say. Let me see. Yeah, in the Dark Olympus series. So this was technically book number 5, I believe, in the Dark Olympus. Let me look here. I've got my my book tracking app here. Yeah, so this was book number 5 in the Dark Olympus series. And so if you read anything by Katie Robert or you know anything about her writing, it's very like smut forward and all that. I gave this book, I think, 3 stars. Let me look. I accidentally didn't mark it on my Goodreads, so let me see if I put it on Fable. Okay. I haven't used this app very much, so I don't know. Oh, here it is. Okay. Cruel Seduction. Okay, I give this 3.5 stars. And it was very like cliche, you know, enemies to lovers, all of that. I gave it 3.5 stars just because it's not like super well written in my opinion. It's very like, I don't know, it's just a quick, easy read, and I enjoyed it, but I wasn't gonna like throw down my life for reading this book, you know what I mean? So this was a quick, fun read, but yeah, 3.5 stars. Not anything to write home about. I think I mentioned, but I'm also reading books from like a jar that I have. I have like all my physical books written down and put them in a jar. So some of these are picks from like the jar, and a couple of them are like picks from my physical reads bookshelf, which is all in the jar. Just because I wanted to read them as well. You know, I'm trying to like force myself to get through some of them, but also like enjoy it while I'm doing it, right? So the next up was another book from the jar, and it was another nonfiction book. For my dad and I, and it was called The Mother Next Door, and this is based on like true stories about Munchausen by proxy. If you don't know what Munchausen by proxy is, you can obviously look it up, but basically it is somebody who pretends to be sick or pretends that their family member, child, you know, whatever, is sick to then get attention and whatever. So the cases themselves, very interesting. The writing in this book, I found it really hard to like kind of get through. It was very like, it was very medical forward in some parts, which I understand because it is a medical nonfiction book, but it was also then mixed in with like true stories plus like personal accounts of situations that the author had been through and the detective in this book. But it wasn't like super well written in my opinion. So I didn't really enjoy it that much, other than it was like fascinating for the actual situations of Munchausen by proxy. Yeah, Munchausen by proxy is such a weird, like, interesting disease to me. It's just something that I can't wrap my head around because I'm not like that kind of person. But yeah, fascinating stories and interesting about like how they got through the medical system and like fooled all these people. But the writing itself was kind of like, I gave this 2 stars. Okay, next up, I don't actually have a physical copy of because I thought I did on my bookshelf, and I only had book 2 and 3 on my bookshelf out of the series. But it is part of your world, and this is from part of your world, and this is from Abby Jimenez. This was my first Abby Jimenez read, and this was a fun, like, lighthearted read, in my opinion. It was a really quick read and a little bit, like, spicy and a little bit sad and a little bit funny, and it just had all, like, the little pieces for a funny, quick read for me. I did end up giving this 4 stars on Goodread, but I want to say it was probably like 3.75 on Fable. So I've been using both apps. I like Fable because you can do like quarter or half stars instead of doing like Goodreads only lets you do full star ratings, and sometimes books just aren't a full star rating, you know what I mean? So yeah, I give this one 3.5 stars, and it wasn't a super long read. I borrowed it from the library using the Libby app to read it on my Kindle. So I don't have the physical copy like I said, but I did enjoy that read. It was cute. I look forward to reading the other 2 in her series. Next up is actually another Katie Robert book, and this was Heated Rivals. And honestly, I was hoping this was the really popular Heated Rivalry book that's out right now. That one's a hockey romance. I think it's male to male hockey romance. It wasn't. It was Heated Rivals, which are 2 different things. And this one was like mafia style, kind of like wrong side of the tracks families that were, enemies, and they were getting together for like power or for, like, I don't know. Yeah, like for power basically, and to like take over the town and like whatever in their side of like Boston. And this was like an Irish kind of mafia romance. I'm assuming they didn't specifically say, but like O'Malley and was like one of the main families, so that was my assumption. I could be wrong. I don't know. This was actually second book in the series, I think, but it is standalone enough, like the Cruel Seduction, like in the Dark Olympus series. Those books are part of a series, but also standalone. So it had some good, hot, spicy scenes in it, and it was a fairly quick read. I didn't think the writing was good, or like as good as Cruel Seduction. It wasn't as quick of a read for me for some reason. This one got 3 stars as well. Okay, next up is another from the bookshelf, of course. This is called The Click. It's a novel by Lissy Harrison. It reminds me of is it like Clueless, I think? I'll put it here on the screen. I think the movie is Clueless, and I'm guessing it's based off of a book, but that's what this reminded me of. This is a very like young adult read. It was very quick. It was like very bratty teenage, like so-and-so moved in, and we don't like her because she's not part of the clique. It's very Mean Girls to me. This is like pre-Mean Girls. Yeah, it was just, I don't know why this book was ever written. I gave it 2 stars. Okay, next up, we've got a thick bitch here, I tell ya. Ooh, this is Sarah J. Maas's Crescent City. And this is book number 1, House of Earth and Blood. And this is part of her Massverse, which is like Throne of Glass, ACOTAR. I read Throne of Glass last year, all of that series. Well, I actually skipped one book on accident and I didn't even know it. So, like, do what you will with that information. And then ACOTAR as well. So I read ACOTAR a few years ago. I reread it last year, I believe. It might have been the year before I reread it. And then this year now I'm reading Crescent City. So I finished this book. It is about 800 pages. And I gave this book 4 stars, I think. I did. I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads, and it doesn't look like I rated it on Fable, but I would say probably like 3.75 stars on Fable. This was a good book. There was a little bit like in between because this is the first book in the series. There's a lot of like world building in it, specifically for like a new fantasy series. If you don't read like a lot of fantasy series, you may not really know what I'm talking about, but basically they have to set up the whole world, the whole universe, the whole city, the whole everything that's going on, right? So it's a lot of like information at the start of this book, and then it really kind of like kicks off from there. But this was a pretty good book. Like I said, I gave it 3.75, 4 stars ish. I'm gonna maybe say a controversial opinion here. I don't think this is better than ACOTAR. And I'll tell you why. I think because it's a little more modern day centered. Like they've got phones, they can text and call and like all of these things. It's more of like a urban environment versus like rural fantasy, like separated out, olden days kind of fantasy. So I don't feel like this one hits the mark as much for me as like ACOTAR did. And not saying that ACOTAR is the end all be all. I'm just saying that like ACOTAR was my first like fantasy series read, and it had a lot of things for me that were hits in it. And compared to Crescent City, which is also written by her, of course, it just doesn't quite hit the fantasy mark for me, but it's still a very good read. It was entertaining, and the ending left on like a cliffhanger. So I was kind of like, what's next? Like I got to read book number 2 now. And then the book after that I read was called In His Wake. I don't have a physical copy of this either. This was it's called In His Wake. And this was from, if you're an Amazon Prime member, you have access to first reads, which is basically reading the book first before it actually releases the following month on Amazon Prime or wherever it's being released. So this was one of those books, and I enjoyed this book for the most part. The ending was kind of like, to me, felt a little rushed, kind of like I talked about in The Widow. I gave this one 3 stars. I'd say maybe like 3.5 though, if I was reading it on my other app. And yeah, the story was entertaining. It kept me kind of on the edge of my seat, seeing where it was like going. But again, the ending was just kind of like lackluster for me, but a fairly quick read as well. And then last but not least is book number 2 in Crescent City. This one is also like 800 pages, and it's another like thickie. And I am maybe like a third of the way through. I'm about 250 pages in. And this is The House of Sky and Breath. And so far, so good. I think I'll finish this by the end of the weekend. It's Friday right now, so probably like I'll finish this Sunday evening, which is technically like the 1st of February, I think, but whatever. It'll be in here somewhere. I'll talk about it. And yeah, like I said, the first book left off on a cliffhanger, so I am interested to see where this book goes and kind of see how the two books tie together and where they take the story from here. Again, it is like an urban setting, so it misses the mark a little bit for me in fantasy. Again, this is like an urban setting, so it misses the mark a little bit for fantasy for me just because of that. It doesn't have like that nostalgia for me of like a true fantasy world where there's like not modern day systems like phones and trains and, you know, being able to get quickly from one place to the next, and kind of like part of that gives me like those kind of things, like, you know, it took us 7 days on horseback to get there. It's like a little bit like hits home for me because it's just kind of fun. It adds to it, like the suspense of things for me. um but yeah, still a good series so far. I'm enjoying it, and I look forward to seeing what we read in February. But yeah, that's all I've read in January so far. Um, a couple honorable mentions just because I bought them for my father. Well, actually, I read this one last year. Very Bad Company. Not great. I think I gave it like 3 stars, but it was like a quick read. And it was about like a girl that worked for a company, got hired, and then like people started dying and stuff like that. But the two honorable mentions, my father asked for these from a thrifted book website, and one is The Trail of Tears. This is The Trail of Tears, The Rise and Fall of the Cherokee Nation by John L. E.H.L.E. And the second one is Bury My Heart at Wounded Knee by D. Brown, D-E-E, Brown. And these are just a couple nonfiction reads that he had wanted, and they kind of go out of stock fairly easily, so I went ahead and just scooped them up for him, and they're both in hardbacks, and I'm sure he'll enjoy reading them because he's into that kind of history and just into nonfiction and those kind of reads. So yeah, thank you guys for sitting here with me chatting about books, and we'll throw you into the next clip.